Hi there, welcome back, and firstly, Happy New Year. It's recording now on the Monday, the 2nd of January 2023, and I thought I would do a video on some of the technologies that I'm learning this year, or hope to learn as well, really. So hopefully it's going to keep me accountable, and putting this out there just to show what technologies I'm learning, and then feel free to comment down below if you're perhaps learning the same ones. Can recommend any courses or even like YouTube tutorials that I can have a look at, or also if there's anything else that you think I should learn or that you're learning. There's a lot that I've missed off, as you'll see as I go down the list. And yeah, because I haven't sort of done this video before, I thought I would go back from 2020 when I started to learn to code with, as you can see, HTML and CSS and all the basics, and then sort of go through the last few years and then sort of be an annual thing going forward. So obviously, the title of this video is shamelessly stolen from Ben Awad, who's another sort of dev YouTuber, and I've seen some other people as well do similar videos of sort of what technologies they're learning. And as I said, I think it's a really good way to not only track your progress sort of annually, but also have a think about what you actually want to learn. And that's something that I've been sort of, I guess not only consistent with, but really quite targeted, in the sense that I knew exactly what I wanted to learn. Obviously when I started, and all of those technologies, and now I want to learn in this next year. So I started to learn to code in the summer of 2020. We were sort of in lockdown in the UK here, and I started with HTML and CSS, so literally just these first two here, and that was probably for a good sort of 5 or 6 months or so, just learning these. And you can see here there was some Sass as well, I think CSS modules, some Bootstrap, and I've also got Tailwind, which I was sort of used for, like, let's say one project, and then Bootstrap for another website. But I was just building HTML and CSS websites basically, and learning that. And then towards the sort of, I guess, Q4 of 2020, I picked up JavaScript, because at the time I was going through Free Code Camp, and there's a few videos on my channel about that, so I won't go into it too much, but I started to learn JavaScript, and then sort of by December time, I thought I had a good understanding of JavaScript, but really it's sort of still super early days, just learning syntax and that kind of thing and how it all works and runs really. So that was 2020. If I now go to 2021, I continued on with Free Code Camp, and we have jQuery here. So as you can see, I kind of learned just a little bit of jQuery. And actually, let me put that into read mode. So then we picked up JavaScript, and React. We got some Node and Express, Next.js, and GraphQL, and Jest, and React testing library. And actually, these last three, these were all due to the fact that I secured a job. So I got my first web developer job as a junior full stack developer, mostly doing front end because the other guy that they hired around the same time as me was more of a back end dev. But we used Next.js, which was a React framework, GraphQL to interface between sort of the client and the server. And also had to learn testing, so Jest and React testing library, which were things that I picked up perhaps a little bit earlier in 2021. But that was obviously, I needed high test coverage, or I think it might have even been a sort of, I don't know if it was actually 100% at the time. Some of the component libraries were, but had to pick up all of these technologies, and enjoyed doing so. And you can see JavaScript was still throughout 2021, because I was still learning a lot, and did learn a lot as well in my time at that company. So that was 2021, a lot of growth, and again quite a few different languages and technologies. Obviously continue on with React, JavaScript, and Next, which I kind of class as similar, at least under the JavaScript band. And then Node as well, and Express, again, that's all JavaScript, but for backend. So I was building sort of simple CRUD APIs, and that kind of thing. So basically JavaScript heavy, other than the GraphQL, which was, it was quite fun to work with. So for 2022, you can see here now we have C# and ASP.NET, and then continuing on with Next.js. So that was due to work. There was a legacy C# application, which again, so I basically learned the language and the basics. I think in the end, whilst I was working at that company, we were mostly working with Next.js and React and sort of the new stuff, but there were some older tickets and bug fixes that we had to do in this old ASP.NET, basically web application. And I think in the end, all I really did was, a few of these bug tickets, kind of learnt it a little bit, but it was a huge monolith application, sort of 5, 6 years old. So if you've sort of worked in a legacy code base before, and I certainly would consider that legacy, as did sort of everyone else, it was really quite challenging. And yeah, I think, as I said, in the end, actually only created one API endpoint in C#. So I wouldn't say I'm sort of proficient in it at all. I could kind of find my way around things. And just kind of sort of copy what had been done before and just refactor it to the new needs. But yeah, didn't spend much time within that application really. And then the other two of SQL and MongoDB, just obviously databases. So SQL is, I used MySQL for that, and then the NoSQL database I picked was MongoDB. I actually think about it, I did have used Firebase or sort of Firestore, probably in 2020 when I was learning React as just a simple backend, but that was more following a tutorial. So wouldn't say I'm proficient in it at all, but I think now sort of playing with both of these and understanding the SQL syntax and then how MongoDB and these other sort of non-relational databases work, I think I could pick up kind of any database now and work with it with sort of whatever backend needs that I have. They're really quite simple. So for example, I've been building more recently a Node and Express API, and some of that includes a MySQL database to store users and sort of passwords, and sort of learning about more back-end stuff with hashing passwords and using all sorts of sort of cool libraries and technology there. So yeah, that was 2022. And then basically towards the end of 2022, got my second dev job. So I moved over to a new company. And I'm sort of almost 3 months in now to there, and that's also been learning more React and Next and all of that kind of stuff. But yeah, so I'll continue doing that at work, obviously, with TypeScript as well. And actually, I think I forgot to mention TypeScript was anywhere I mentioned JavaScript, it is actually TypeScript that I'm using professionally, as well as now in any sort of personal projects or that kind of thing. But it is still JavaScript at the end of the day, so that's why I class it as that. But you can see here now, 2023. So here's what I'm learning hopefully this year. And these are only a couple of points. So as you can see, I'm almost learning less each year, but actually I'm probably learning a lot more really. There's so much out there, and I'm still learning JavaScript, as we can see here. So I think I just want to get better at more the intermediate, maybe advanced JavaScript topics, and also React as well, which you obviously use day to day in my job now as a front-end developer. And part of that is Epic React here. So this is a course by Kent C. Dodds, who I think if you spent time on Twitter or YouTube, you might recognize him or know about him. He has this really good course, and actually I was quite thankful to get that through my work. So they've paid for the license for me to, and quite a few others as well actually, to sort of go through that, because the actual course itself is quite expensive. I'm not sure exactly how much. I think it's sort of in the hundreds of pounds or dollars, depending on which tier you get. But I was, as I said, gifted this course, and I'm hoping that working through it and just being exposed to more React and JavaScript will make me a better intermediate developer. Obviously still very much junior, having sort of only worked professionally for sort of a year and a half, 2 years coming up to this year it will be. So that's the first point. Then I think also I want to do a cloud certificate, or at least learn a bit more about cloud computing, whilst I'm still learning more about the back-end stuff, as I said. So that would be Google Cloud Platform, so GCP, or AWS, Amazon Web Services. I'm not too sure which one to pick at my work, because there's actually kind of two companies under sort of one umbrella company. They use both, but the division that I'm part of uses AWS. So I think I might go with that, because that's what our back-end developers use it currently. And that was also used at my previous place. And when I say sort of cloud certificate, I know there's a number of different types and some options there. So I'm just going to basically get familiarized with it and understand a few of the different platforms. And certainly I know within AWS there's sort of hundreds of products and solutions. So I probably don't need to know all of them. I think it's just a case of learning a few, learning about them, what can be done. Because that's kind of part of learning as well as like tech and development is, there's all these problems, and it's kind of knowing what product or how you would solve a solution or come up with a solution to that problem. So just having some understanding of different cloud technologies, and I guess you could call them microservices as well. I know AWS offer a whole host of products, as I mentioned. So yeah, obviously if I have a use case for one of these, let's say, then I would learn that more deeply and perhaps integrate it into one of the projects that I have going on, for example. So the next one, as I mentioned, kind of microservices. I think it kind of applies to this with Docker and Kubernetes. So we use Docker at work, but this is all set up, sort of way before I joined, and haven't really had to touch Docker at all or understand sort of how it works. And sort of more, I guess, the CI/CD kind of things, or DevOps. But it's definitely related to development, and I think it's really good to know, again, as I'm trying to become more of a higher beginner or an intermediate developer. Having a more well-rounded knowledge of sort of these things will be really useful. So again, I think I've already found a course on Docker from the NetNinja, who I used heavily in 2020 and 2021 to learn the basics. And then, yeah, I think, again, as I said, if I have a use case for these, I'll certainly use them for any side projects going forward or personal sites. And then the last one for this year is deployment. So I've used Vercel to actually host a live website, which I got the domain for. It's just a personal site. But yeah, I understand Heroku sort of got rid of their free tier. So I'm looking at Railway as an option. It looks quite cool to host perhaps even a Node sort of backend or MySQL server. And then the alternative is actually maybe just to self-host a web server, sort of using a Linux operating system. I've actually got an old but still really powerful Windows PC that I took from my previous work when they were sort of sunsetting a load of technology. So that has 2 OSs installed. I can't remember which ones exactly, but I've never really used it, to be honest. But I think that would be quite cool to learn about sort of web servers and hosting, and just have something running, let's say an endpoint or a website, and use that as kind of like the back end or the database, and then sort of from another PC, or on the internet, just hit that URL or whatever's been exposed, and do it that way, rather than relying on a hosting service such as Heroku or Railway, or Vercel as well. Even though it seems Vercel, there's lots going on there, and it seems really exciting, and certainly I would use that for any sort of Next.js hosting, which is probably my currently preferred front-end framework. And yeah, if I was spinning up a React app, it would be actually the Next app, Create Next app. So these are the technologies that I'm learning in 2023. As you can see, there's not too many, but I think it will keep me busy, and obviously have a full-time job now coding. So before, in 2020, I was learning all of this on the side, and actually up until August 21, it was just evenings and weekends. But now I'm learning at work. There's so much that I can continue to learn and do day to day, so I can really actually progress a lot quicker, as I've seen over the last year or two. And yeah, I hope 2023 will sort of be similar in that prospect, and I hope you have a good one as well. So as I said, thanks for watching, and do let me know in the comments below if you have any technologies that you're learning either similar to this or perhaps differently. I think some of the ones that seem interesting, obviously perhaps not the crypto side, with how everything's going at the moment, sort of Web3. I think a lot of the hype around that's dying, which is why I haven't included it. But was it the AI side of things? So ChatGPT, GitHub Copilot, all of these are really interesting, and it's really cool tech. And I think actually that is more of what Web3 sort of took some eyeballs away from. And I really think AI is gonna keep progressing at a rapid pace. So it might be something that I want to look into towards the end of 2023 or next year now. But yeah, here's my 4 anyway. So I hope that was helpful, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Thanks for watching.